Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Star Watch, which is a weekly astrological transit report. If you're new here, my name is Jane. I'm super happy to have you here. And if you are returning or coming back, I'm glad to have you back. Let's go ahead and get started for the transits for the week. We're doing this as of June 15th, which is Wednesday. Happy Mercury Day, everybody. So we have some really cool things happening. Now, this week is a very special week, okay? We have this like little niche, right? We're kind of in this little groove here this week where things are likely to really move forward, and we have a lot of opportunities to close things out in a way that, you know, we've been really hoping for and really wanting, and Mercury is here to really facilitate all of that stuff and get everything together and get the strategy together and get organized. And then next week, we're going to have some, as the sun moves into Cancer, and we're building up to the new moon in Cancer and Neptune retrograde. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit more emotional. But this week is going to be highly logical. We're going to hopefully be able to find our groove to some extent. We're going to be able to be productive. And it's going to be in kind of a lower level kind of way. This is not a week of like high level existentialism, right? This is not some huge emotionally charged week. It's more about like focusing your mind, getting the tasks done, doing the things, sending the emails, making the phone calls, facilitating the people, signing the contracts, hiring the people, whatever you need to do in order to carry your life into the next thing, right? Because we have the sun here, 24 degrees. Now he is finishing out his transit in Gemini. On the 21st, he will be entering into Cancer. This week, he's in the Uranian decan, okay? He's going to be finishing out that energy. And we just had this Venus-Uranus conjunction. So we've had kind of this Uranian volatility, which we definitely saw in the markets. That is for sure, right? So we definitely saw that in the markets. Financials, of course, Taurus. Venus conjunct the North Node, of course. You know, I mean, last week I was like, I'm not even going to begin to predict the way this is going to go, because it could go up really high or it could go down really high. It could be one way or the other. Who knows? Markets went down, and you may have had some kind of event that happened for you personally as well. It's likely that the event that happened, if you did in fact have an event, was likely something that lit a fire under your butt a little bit, right? Because maybe it wasn't the best situation for some of you. Like maybe you received a phone call with some news that you weren't super happy about. Maybe you received like some kind of financial news or like some bill, or you incurred some kind of debt, especially with the South Node over here in Scorpio. Maybe you had some news about a friend or whatever. Maybe your spouse even had something happen. Maybe it wasn't you, maybe it was them. But either way, the situation at hand, whatever it was, likely shook you up enough. And that's what Uranus is here to do. It's here just to like make us really uncomfortable. It's here to kind of get us out of our norm, to get us out of our patterns, to get us out of our groove so that we can then progress forward. And the shakeup, regardless of how it made you feel or what truly transpired or the emotions that came about, right? Because you may have been stressed, you may have had anxiousness, you may have not been able to sleep very well or whatever. But that's exactly what you needed to inspire you. Now, what's really interesting about this Venus situation here is I really think this conjunction with Uranus and now this conjunction with the North Node is about inspiration, but it's not necessarily one of those bolt of lightning moments of inspiration, but rather, I don't like this situation and I need to get out of it kind of inspiration. Uranus is here to, and this again, the sun is like, all right, we gotta make this change. And Venus is like all about what we truly value. And you may have had something highlighted in your life that you're like, this is not aligned with my value. Like, for example, let's use the incurring a debt example, okay? Let's say you got a big bill in the mail for something, and now you're all stressed because you're not sure how to really pay for it. And you to yourself now are saying something like, this is not the kind of life that I pictured myself living. You know, I didn't picture myself having to be stressed out about my bills, right? I want a life that is more abundant than this. This is where this transition is happening, and this is how Uranus and the North Node really work. They get us uncomfortable with where we are so that we can then push and expand. Venus does not necessarily like to expand, especially not when she is in Taurus. And I used this visual last week, okay? And I'm going to bring up this visual again. So Venus, here she is in her domicile. And the way I picture the Taurian domicile, all right, they all kind of have like their little visuals for me, the way I picture it. And you can picture your own. Like, what does the home of Venus in Taurus really look like, right? I picture it as like this beautiful stone home, like handcrafted with these beautiful gardens, right? With this like lush greens and beautiful trees and these florals that are just kind of like going between the inside and the outside of the home. Everything is made of marble and crystal, these beautiful chandeliers, big patio overlooking these pristine gardens. You know, it's like this lovely, lovely place. And then again, last week I said, you've got these two house guests. You've got Uranus and you've got the North Node. And Uranus is all like crazy scientist, social justice, you know, getting heated about issues and wanting to like come in and break the rules. And then you have this kind of greedy North Node over here who's just kind of like, bleh, you know, he's drinking all the wine and he's doing all the things. And Venus is just like, oh my gosh, like, what am I supposed to do with these people? Because she's so, you know, elegant and graceful and diplomatic. And she's such a good hostess, of course, you know. And so she's kind of sitting down to dinner with these two people, these two planets, and she's like, all right, you know, they're here for a reason. They're here to do some stuff. It's likely that, you know, I mean, they're not here for nothing. You know, we got to sit down. We got to hear them out. We got to listen to them. We have to entertain them. What are they really thinking? What are their ideas? Because maybe, just maybe, there is a stroke of brilliance in this moment. Right? And so maybe, just maybe, there is a stroke of brilliance in your circumstance that you are not happy with. And if this circumstance inspires you to act on something new or to push forward with an idea that's been up here for a long time, if that inspiration gets you to take the first steps, then it served its purpose. And that was the point. All right? So don't be stressed. You don't have to have anxiety. You don't have to be sad about stuff. You don't have to be, you know, frustrated with anything, because it's ultimately going to be something that you look back on and be like, oh my gosh, like, thank goodness this came into my life, because if it wasn't for that, I never, ever, ever would have moved on. Okay. And so Mercury also here too, being in his rulership. Now, Venus and Mars have been in rulership for a while, so that's not news. Saturn has been in rulership. Neptune has been in rulership. Not new. But now we have Mercury in rulership, so we've got all these planets in rulership right now. And Mercury, I think, is one of the best planets to have in rulership, because he's one of the ones that like really speeds things up when he's doing really well and when he manifests well. Our minds work well, our strategies tend to work out, our connections tend to work out, and everything kind of gets streamlined a little bit. So any issues that you had been having, especially with that Mercury retrograde going back into Taurus a few weeks ago, you know, that could have been like really just been one of those things. You're just like, oh my gosh, like this just is never going to end. This is just going to drag on forever. Well, now hopefully you're feeling like it's not dragging out really forever. And now I'm officially moving on. And now officially we're seeing progress. And this is great. And Mercury is here to do that job. He's here to facilitate those things. He's here to help us get from point A to point B. And he's going to do whatever he really needs to do. Later, he's moving faster now. I mean, he's not like fully at like full speed yet, but he is definitely moving faster. And as he moves through Gemini, you know, he's going to be coming into a trine with Saturn, which I actually really love, Mercury trine Saturn, because it really facilitates that quality of focus. Now, that's not happening this week, but it'll be later on. But there is that sign to sign, right? Gemini to Aquarius, both an air sign. So Saturn and Mercury now working together, not creating so much tension, and there can be a lot of discipline, a lot of focus, and therefore a lot of productivity. And as Venus comes off the North Node, like if I fast forward this clock just a couple of days, you'll see Venus now separating from the North Node. So it's kind of like, so she had her dinner with her house guests. She heard out their ideas. They made her a little bit uncomfortable. And now she's like going back, upstairs to take a hot bubble bath. And she's going to like process everything that was just said. Everything that Uranus and the North Node put out on the table, as challenging it may have been for her to hear, she also values real feedback. And I think that whatever happened was real feedback for you, feedback that you can sink your teeth into, that you can use and leverage into something more useful moving forward. And so she's going to do that. She's going to do that decompression. And here she is this week coming into she already is in there, I guess, technically, but she's in the Saturnian decan. So she's going to be transiting through the Saturn section or the Capricorn section of Taurus. And not to mention that over here we have Saturn in the Venus or the Venusian decan, the Libran decan of Aquarius. So we have this Venus-Saturn connection. When Venus and Saturn come together, you have to think about like I said, what you truly value in this world, what truly means something to you, your family, probably the most important for most of you, your happiness, your freedom, your self-expression, your creativity. All of these things are things that, hopefully you're prioritizing in terms of what you value. And Saturn says, okay, well, Venus, if this truly is your top priority in this life, then we have to apply some quality of discipline. There has to be some consistency, and there has to be a continual progression forward. Venus can get very complacent sometimes, and she can be, very luxurious and laid back, and there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes that can go a little overboard. So what I'm sensing is a nice balance between the work ethic and, Saturn is very strict sometimes. Venus can kind of soften him out a little bit, and Venus can be a little complacent, and Saturn can offer that structure. So it's a nice balance of both here. And I think that this is going to really provide a platform for you to start taking meaningful steps toward the true manifestation of this thing that was highlighted by this other thing that made you so uncomfortable. Okay? So not only is Venus separating off of the North Node, but we also have Mars separating off of Chiron. Now, and this is what I was saying at the beginning, like we have this week, it's a very special week where these planets, Venus and Mars, are separating off of North Node and Chiron. We've got strong Mercury going on. We've got a strong strong Saturn as well. And the sun has not quite entered into Cancer, where it's going to be kind of, because once it hits that next Tuesday, it's going to kind of go into the more emotional realm. So this is like a speedy week. Mars separating off of Chiron. Now, I just have to say this because when I was kind of preparing for this reading tonight, I was like, this is like the whole teal swan thing. I don't know if you guys have been following that at all. I'm following it because I just found out actually that I went to elementary school with Teal. I didn't know that in Utah. We went to Edith Bowen together. And we were there at the same time. She wasn't in my class. Like I didn't personally know her, but I didn't know she grew up in Hyde Park, Utah, which is where I grew up. She was born in 1984. I was born in 1985. So I kind of have been following that and kind of doing my own research on it. I'm trying not to make any judgments about it, but I'm watching this whole thing unfold and kind of a lot of this exposure. And she has Aries in the 10th house, right? She's a Cancer rising. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the epitome of like Mars coming conjunct Chiron for somebody. Like the whole past couple of weeks, it's been, like what a brutal way for Mars and Jupiter to manifest in your 10th house, right? Like that's brutal. And so she just got hit really hard with that. If you're not following, you can completely disregard whatever I'm talking about. Not everyone is really into it the way I'm into it. But yeah, like there was a lot of exposure there, and maybe on some level, maybe not to that degree, but we all felt that, we all felt that vulnerability. We all felt that, especially regarding whatever house it's in. For me, it's sitting in my 7th house. So there was some interesting relational thing that happened to me this past week. So yeah, I mean, this can definitely bring out that exposure. It can definitely bring out the energy of, accentuating the areas of ourselves that really need to heal, where we need to kind of step back away from ourselves and kind of reevaluate in some way, shape, or form. But now that Mars is moving off of that, he's going to be moving into the Jupiterian decan of Aries this week, not until later, late this week. Okay, so actually technically he'll still be in the sun for most of the week, but that's still okay. Whether he's connecting with the sun or whether he's connecting with Jupiter, either way, he's in rulership. This is a very advantageous transit for him. And I'm getting a sense that he is really the fire under. Now, when we talk about Venus domicile, right? Let's talk about the Aries domicile. I picture it being like this volcanic, red world. It's all kind of hot and sweaty, and it's all like this battlefield, and here's Mars really ready to go to war, right? He's ready to go to war. He's ready to attack and go after whatever it is that he needs, that you need from him, all right? He's ready to take orders, and he's going to provide you that energy, the energy to really do that. We also have this moon here. Let me go back a little bit because we just came off of that full moon in Sagittarius. I hope you guys had an amazing full moon. But as it comes to Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, now, I mean, this happens every month, right? I mean, this is not like news or anything. But for some reason, because of this, these separating degrees here, the moon coming in contact with Pluto, Saturn, and Neptune, to me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, there are going to be things this week that you are finally going to be able to check off your list. There are lots of endings as you're starting new things, right? It also means that other things are ending. It's like all these things you've had on your to-do list, they finally get done. And I feel a level of productivity that you've all been craving. You've been hoping for that extra push. And I think that this is the week that we really have been needing. Because when Mars comes into Cancer, when the sun comes into Cancer, Cancer is still a cardinal sign. So there's going to be a lot of initiation with stuff happening. So when we take into account the initiating quality of Cancer, plus Mars still being in Aries, there is going to be that focus on all the new things. So this is a week to really wrap up the old things, and allow Pluto and allow Saturn and allow Neptune to really do what they do best, which is bring things to a close. They all close things out in very different ways. Pluto is about destroying it, right? If Saturn is about severing it and Neptune is about dissolving it. So we all they do it in different ways, but I think there could be multiple things that you achieve this week if you set your mind to it, and things that will really propel you and launch you forward, which will feel really, really great. Now, the sun this week, too, is going to be coming into a square. It's already in a square with Neptune as well. This could be a little bit of a drain on your energy. It could feel a little bit tired or whatever, kind of counteracting all this high energy stuff that I'm talking about over here. But I do think that ultimately this Neptune sun, if you can really have consciousness of this energy, it will instill a belief in you that you need. To believe that you can, to believe that you deserve it, to believe that you are worthy of it, to believe that you are good enough, you're smart enough, you're all those things. And for maybe some of you, it's like being smart enough because we're dealing with Gemini. Are you smart enough? Do you have the right contacts? Can you communicate well enough? Can you write it well enough? And maybe that could be something that really comes out. Neptune can definitely bring a quality of loss, though, and he can bring out a lot of emotion. So if you are experiencing feelings of doubt, feelings of insecurity, this is a matter of having consciousness of that and transmuting it or alchemizing it into something a little bit more useful. Because if you're engaging in negative emotion right now, it's just simply not useful. Beliefs that are negative in any capacity are not useful. It's important to remember like the essence of your origin, right? And with Neptune, we also have like the Christ consciousness or the Buddha consciousness that comes out. And sometimes you have to consciously tap into that and choose to be from that higher level, to choose to be from that higher vibration. Yes, Neptune often reminds us of our impermanence. It reminds us that this material world, this material life, it definitely does not last forever, and nothing in it lasts forever. That this is not the essence of who you truly are. Sometimes he can make us feel like, oh, what's the point, right? What's the point if it's not gonna get me what I want, or if it's all impermanent anyway, what's the point? But the sun wants to express, and we can't escape that as human beings, right? We all have this more, right? This is the spirit, right? The sun represents our soul. The soul wants to express itself, especially being in Gemini, and it wants to go a little bit crazy being in the Uranian decan here. It wants to fully open itself up and go full throttle. And sometimes Neptune, he just was like, you're a spirit. It's like, yeah, you're a spirit, but you're here on this earth and you have earthly things to do. And it's something that you have to kind of consciously ground yourself a little bit. But you can and you will. And it's not going to be that big of a deal. As the sun moves into Cancer later on in the week, we're going to start working our way into a square with Jupiter, which we'll talk about more next week. So yeah, I think this is a great week of opportunity for positive progress forward in a lot of ways, especially if you had been feeling, really lackadaisical, or feeling like you were dragging your feet, or feeling frustrated by a certain circumstance that happened, whatever it is, whatever it was. This is your time to sort of transcend that and supersede the effects of that and actually harness it and use it for something better. Okay? All right, so that is the week. That's the energy for the week. You guys know I love you. I hope you have an amazing week. I really, really do. I wish you nothing but the best, and I'll talk to you soon.